Hey, future moguls, welcome to another episode of Just Being Candid with me, your host, Candid. And before we get started on today's episode, I just want to say thank you to everyone that's been supporting the podcast, whether you're listening via Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you hear your podcast. Thank you for your support. And thank you for those who's been tuning in on YouTube. Really appreciate your support. Continue to share with your friends. Click the like button, the share button, the comments. Keep it going. I really appreciate your support. So, first off, those who watching, background's a little bit different because I'm out here in DC for a 2-day workshop, which leads me into our topic for today, networking. And I'm not talking computers. I'm talking actually mingling with people, building relationships, sharpening your skills. So that's what I mean by networking. And the reason why I wanted to talk about networking, what brought on this topic was about 2 weeks ago, I went to a quote unquote conference. I'm not going to say the name because I don't want to badmouth people, but I went to a 2-day conference that focused on Black wealth, right? And it was a waste. So here's the thing though. I kind of knew what I was getting myself into. So I went in with not high expectations. I just wanted to see. The ticket was $100. I was like, all right, it's $100. I spent $100 on things that I need to spend $100. So why not see what this is about? So I get there. It was supposed to start at 10 o'clock. It didn't. They had us waiting in the lobby for about 20 minutes at this hotel. And they was like, okay, we'll let in the VIPs first. Cool, whatever. That's what VIP tickets are for. They going first. Waited some more. It turned from like 15 to like 20, 25 minutes. They finally let us in, and it didn't live up to the little expectations that I thought that I made for it. The panelists was just their friends that they wasn't quote unquote experts. The way it was promoted, like, panels with people from this industry, that industry, different panels, and it wasn't different panels. It was pretty much the same two people speaking on both panels. And I didn't learn anything new. They didn't really teach anything. It was one of those conferences where they were able to really press on people's pain points because the audience there were for those who were on the beginning stages. But it wasn't promoted as that. It was not promoted for those who were in the beginning stages of creating wealth. If that was the case, I would have not paid for my ticket. Also, even if it was, they didn't give you any steps on how to go about creating wealth, how to go about getting an investment account, how to go about learning stock for a beginner, the tips, the tricks. I'm gonna keep it real. I've learned more from Wall Street Trapper. Shout out to him because that's someone I follow, and I've learned a lot from when it comes to investing in the stock market, ETFs. I don't do options, but I learned more from Wall Street Trapper in one podcast episode on YouTube versus that 4-hour event. I actually left early because I was like, I value my time. So I actually came home and I was like, nah, I have to do a topic on networking. And this podcast, this episode, I'm going to focus on the differences between a conference and a workshop, what to look out for, when it comes to preparing for going to a conference and workshop, the do's and don'ts, and why you should attend. So first things first, you have your conferences, which is something like that's like on a larger scale. Like, you have the Black Enterprise, they have their entrepreneurship conference. You have the Culture Con has their conferences. Forbes has their conferences. So there's a lot of big names that have conferences, but there's also a lot of smaller industry based that has their conferences as well. Like, let's say you're an accountant, they probably have like an accounting conferences, which is more professional development, learning new trending topics, new softwares and things of that nature if you're like in the accounting field. So that's what a conference is, and they have like panels, keynote speaker. It's usually 2 to 3 days with the conference. It's probably someplace nice. They have partnerships with hotels where they block time and you can get the hotel there, etc., etc. Then you have your workshops. Like, I'm here in DC for a 2-day workshop. I'm part of an organization called CS, where we focus on civic engagement for youth that's in STEM. So STEM civic engagement. So we're here with other educators that are part of this organization, and it's 2 days where we have panels that will help with professional development, teach us about how to get more funding for the work that we do, meeting and just building relationships, because it's a virtual organization. So because everyone's from different states, so we pretty much see each other once a month during our meetings, and so we never had like that human one-on-one interaction in person. So we're here for 2 days in DC. Having a great time. I'm at the Kimpton Monaco Hotel, beautiful hotel. I've been to DC several times, but this was the first time I actually had time to like do some sightseeing and things like that, and actually catch up with like old friends and stuff like that. But to get to the point, conferences is more big scale, larger, big names, etc., industry based. Workshops are more on a smaller scale where people are meeting, they're sharing perspectives. You do have some panels. You probably has more interactive workshops. So for this workshop, we are actually coming together to create a plan on what's going to be our actions for 2025. So it's more hands-on, more building relationships, more creating an action plan, more having deadlines, and just, making sure that we continue the conversation after these 2 days with each other to do good on what we came here for. Now, why should people attend conferences and workshops? So the first thing is either for personal development. So for example, if you're going to like a mental health conference, I think Charlemagne the Guy has that in New York City, where he focuses on mental health. It has like a lot of guest speakers focusing on therapy and best ways for your mental well-being. So you can go on a personal note, you can go on professionally as well. Like I said earlier, like if you're an accountant, if you're a doctor, if you do hair, there's different conferences and workshops for different industries that you're in. You just have to Google it. It's also about obtaining knowledge from those who are in the industry, and they're giving you either the latest tools that you can use in your profession, latest trends that's coming up. It's just you acquiring knowledge from the guest speakers, the panel discussions that are being held. Also, another reason to go to conferences or workshop is to network. You want to build with people who are like-minded as you, who want to go further in life and go further in their careers. So you want to be around that same synergy and just build those relationships. So if you're like a business owner You can also go to conferences to or workshops to acquire new clients. To you can set up a vendor. So most conferences have like a vendor exhibit, which is pretty much like a separate area within the conference where those who are attending the conferences, they can purchase, the different items that the vendors are selling. So it's a great way to get exposure and acquire new clients. But I would say overall, it's just a really good way to build relationships. Now, when it comes to finding conferences or workshops, I highly, highly, highly recommend these things. First, you have to do your research. Please do your research. Look to see if they did conferences in the past. Look to see if there's testimonials. Look to see if they have an Instagram page or some type of proof showing like what it looked like. What did the attendees look like? What did they have to say? Do your research. See who's on the panel. See if they did this prior, like the year before. See what those panels were like. See what those guest speakers, who they were. Just really do your due diligence into what you're getting yourself into. Also see like if it's a lecture based versus workshops versus having breakout sessions. I personally love conferences where they have different sessions, so you're not in the same room all the time. You're actually going to like, let's say it's for wealth, investing 101. What are ETFs, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, like just different sessions all related to the different ways of building wealth. They may have like a life insurance session, then they'll may have like a panel discussion, and then they have a separate room for like a keynote speaker. So I personally like conferences, but I also like workshops when it comes to my career and networking amongst like colleagues or colleagues that I may have not met in person, but we met like via an email or webinar, because I put together a lot of webinars for my job. So just do your research on the organizers, the guest speakers, the type of panels, whether it's lectures or sessions, because everyone has their own preference. Also, when it comes to when you're like, okay, this is the conference that I want to attend or the workshop I want to attend, I recommend you having clear goals. Like, what is the purpose for you going? Because when it comes to conferences, they could be pricey. There's conferences that may be $199 on the lower scale, but then there's some conferences that go all the way up to like $2,500, $3,000, $4,000 per ticket, or they have different tiers. So you want to ask yourself, why are you going and what do you want to gain from attending? So you want to set those goals. Are you going solely to meet people? Are you going to educate yourself? Are you going to build your brand? Is it all the above? So figure out why you're going. When I attend conferences, I do set my goals, but one of my main goals is to always meet someone new. A lot of people think that I'm like this crazy extrovert. I'm really not. When I need to be, I am. So when I'm out here at these events, I do make it my goal to meet a certain amount of people within that day, but not just meet anybody. I like to meet people who are aligned with the vision that I have for myself and the vision that I have for my business. So that's that one tip when it comes to finding conferences. Now, the do's and the don'ts, right? So don't go solely based on the name. I'm not saying that you're not going to have a good experience, but don't be like, oh, it's Black Enterprise. Oh, it's um, Apple. Oh, it's Forbes. Oh, it's, I don't know, whoever it is, Essence. Whoever it is. I'm not knocking these people because I've attended a Black Enterprise conference. So I'm just saying, don't go based off the name at all. You want to make sure that the conference and workshop that you're attending, you want to go based off of the value that you're going to receive. Okay? So just make sure that it's just not based off of the name. And you also want to see if there's any smaller events happening in your community, like locally as well, because you do have to think about the cost. That's another do. Like, you want to, when it comes to the do's and don'ts of attending the conference, you do want to create a budget. You have to think about, is the conference out of your state? Okay, if it is, you want to think about the ticket price, the hotel price, the airfare or train price, however you're getting there, ground transportation, like ride shares. Is the conference within places where you can walk and eat and walk and do like nightlife activities as well? Like you can make like a day out of it, or do you have to use Uber a lot and Lyft a lot? Where I'm at here in DC, everything is easily accessible. I can walk to get something to eat. Actually, the Capital One Arena is across the street. The Smithsonian is across the street. So when I first got here, I went to the Smithsonian of American Art. Went there, saw some great artwork, came back, got some rest and got ready for my day for the next day for the workshop. So you want to think about like how much is outside of the price of the ticket, how much is everything gonna cost me? So keep that in mind. Another do is do reach out to your network to see who's going. Now, don't based off of like, oh, if none of my friends aren't going, I'm not going. But you just want to see if there's somebody in your network that heard about it, that can benefit from it, to see if you want to go. Because sometimes these conferences do have like buy one, get another half off, bring his friend, or sometimes they have like a friend group special as well. But also, it's just good that if you have somebody in your network who's like-minded and also wants to advance, it's good to go so that way y'all can split things up. So like, for instance, when I lived in New York, I would ask my friends, like, hey, you want to go to this conference with me? Like, because we both benefit. And I'm like, well, get our tickets and we'll look at the agenda. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go to this session, that session. You go to this session and this session. We'll take notes and then we'll exchange them. You go to this panel, I go to this panel, and then we'll exchange informations. See if you can do a little video recording and we'll swap information. So that's a good reason why you want to bring someone, especially if you both benefit from the conference. Then like it's double the, how could I say it? You're able to experience the whole conference without being in every single session because you can split things up. So in closing out, when it comes to going to conference, make sure you're open to meeting new people. Scared when you don't make money. Also, closed mouths don't get fed, as they say. So make sure that you are just going out there to meet people, and don't be scared to meet new people. Have your business cards, exchange phone numbers. I'm not big on business cards, but what I do is I will put the number in my phone, and I will put in parentheses like where I met them at and stuff like that. And I will make sure to follow up. If I have the email, hey, it was great meeting you, XYZ. If I get their number in that moment, I would text them, hey, it's Candid, just met, great meeting you, here's my info, lock and let's stay connected. Simple. If I have access to their LinkedIn and I see that they are active on LinkedIn, I'll shoot them a message, hey, it's Candid, great meeting you, XYZ, here's my information, let's stay connected. That's it, short and simple. And then hopefully they follow back up, but make sure that you are following up. Diversify your conferences and workshop. I don't just attend conferences that are specifically in the industry that I work in. I go to tech conferences. I went to a videographer, photographer type conference. So I can just learn what's new out there and also meet new people. Because I may need a videographer one day. Well, I will need a videographer one day. I go to like an art conference so I can meet different, artists and painters and things of that nature, or just people in that world, art executioners and things of that nature. Because I just like to meet people. That's just me. I like to meet people. I like to have like a diverse network because you never know when it may come in handy. Like for example, at today's conference, someone was like, oh, I'm looking for someone to create a platform for me for my program. I was like, oh, I know someone who creates platforms because they did it for this program. I'll introduce you. I'll make the connection. Boom. If you would have seen me, when she saw me, she was like, really? You know somebody? I'm like, yeah. And I mentioned who they were and the platform that they created for the program that I worked on. They was like, oh, I heard of that. I was like, yeah, I'll make the connection. So it's not about like how you benefit. You want to like have a diverse group, a diverse network, because you don't know how you can help people. It's not always about you and helping yourself. It's how you can help others. And also don't go into a situation on if I help them, they gotta help me. You should just want to help because you want to help. Let me see what else I have on here because I have my laptop. I had to take some notes. Remember, you don't want to attend a conference where you already know what the information is. The point is to grow your mindset. Go to conferences that make you feel uncomfortable, where you're like, I'm not the smartest person in this room. I don't know what they're talking about. Those are the best ones to go to because you're growing. You're learning new things. Now you can take that new information, research what you learn, and just be even more educated on things. And you can pass that knowledge on to somebody else. So to land the plane, shout out my boy Jamar, he always told me that. To land the plane, when it comes to networking, don't be afraid to do it. Don't be afraid to meet new people, especially if you have ambition and you want to continue to evolve as a person, evolve in your career, evolve in your business. You have to go out there and meet people and do it scared. If you have to go by yourself, go by yourself. Okay, but that's the only way for us to grow. I'm an entrepreneur. I also do have a job, so I make sure that I'm growing in my career. I make sure that I'm growing in my business. So networking 101 is something that you have to do. You have to take that first step. Even if you've already been going to these networking events and conferences and you're like, oh, I'm not really getting anything from it. Just use the tips that I gave you and see if it works. You have to have a plan. You just can't go and expecting like, oh, I'm gonna go to this conference and just go to the panels and XYZ and then come home. You have to take what you learn from these conferences and workshops and implement it in your everyday life and implement it in the areas that it needs to be in. So as always, I do like to close the podcast with a Bible verse. This one is Proverbs 27, verse 17. Some may be familiar with it. It says, Iron sharpens iron. So one person sharpens another. So long story short, go find your tribe and build and sharpen iron. Sharpen each other's iron. Learn. Learn of each other. Grow together. Elevate each other. Challenge each other. But you have to find that tribe and continue to build. I'm Candid. This is just being candid. Thank you again for listening. Remember, if you're on Apple, Spotify, um, subscribe to the podcast, like the episode, leave a comment. Feel free to leave a comment. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, leave a comment, share, like. I just really appreciate all the support. Let the momentum continue. Because how cool would it be when just being candid, the show, the podcast, we up there, like we up on top, doing it big, and you can say, man, I was following that podcast when they had like 10 subscribers, when they was only getting like 4 views. I've been rocking with just being candid. You want to be that OG viewer, that OG listener. And I appreciate each and every one of you for taking your time out to watch the show or listen. It means a lot to me. Also, if you have any topic ideas, um, please feel free to hit me up. You can leave in the comment, hey, do a show about this. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Just Be Candid, JustBeCandid, Just Be Candid. Let me know what you think about the episode. So until next time, blessings up, and I'll see you next episode. Peace.